Honda is facing challenges. The Japanese automaker says it's delaying the project of EV investment in Ontario, including a proposed EV battery plant and a retooled vehicle assembly facility. It's a $15 billion investment. For more, let's go bring in David Adams. He's the president and CEO of Global Automakers of Canada. David, thanks for coming in today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Honda is saying EV demand has dropped, but how much of this do you see as related to auto tariffs versus EV demand drop?
Well, I'd actually say it probably is more related to EV demand drop than anything else. So it's a combination of things on the EV side of the house. We've had government incentives that have been taken away at the federal level. Also, the province of BC has just removed their incentives. Quebec's incentives are in place, but at a reduced level until 2027. So this combined with also the government not building out the infrastructure that is required to support the vehicles at the rate that by their own admission they need to build it out, is causing consumers, I think, some concern. So it's affordability for the vehicles, and it's also the fact that they don't have assurance that they can charge their vehicle wherever they want to, whenever they want to, reliably and quickly as well. Okay,
so Honda, of course, saw a big dip in profit as a result of some of the tariffs that have been going on. They expect a bigger dip as they go through the year. Of course, that means they're taking a look at their bottom line.
Sure.
So I'm wondering whether you see the agreement in Ontario for that $15 billion build-out as contractual and something that will happen, or does a delay mean this could be outright canceled?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the reality is that I take Honda at their word that it is a postponement, not a scrubbing of the entire project. And I think if you look at Honda's history in Canada, over their 40-plus years in Canada, they have never laid off an employee and have been consistent in terms of just continuing to increase production here. And I think they stipulated in their statement today that there's no impact on employment or production at the facility from these announcements.
For the current level.
For the current level,
correct.
Yes. Yeah.
That being said, we're seeing a lot of car makers now sort of scratch their heads and say, do we move to the U.S.? Do we move facilities and do a build out in the U.S. under the circumstances that Washington is demanding it for them to get a break from the tariffs? So is there a concern that some of that business could, if not all of it, or some of it, move to the U.S.?
I mean, there's always a concern, but I think everybody really needs to sit back and look at the big picture. These automotive investments aren't made on a 4-year cycle. They're made for a long term, and billions of dollars made for a long-term capital commitment. So if there's any move afoot to reconsider that capital equipment, then or investment, then that's going to be over the long term. So I don't see anything happening imminently. I mean, of course, it's president's made no bones about wanting our industry to be repatriated back to the United States, but I think they have challenges there just with workforce and the reality of that if you bring everything back, it's going to be more expensive for consumers to produce it all in the United States as well.
Do you feel like there could be an opportunity here for some of them to jump the gun? Because we've seen some of the tech companies do it as well, right? As soon as Donald Trump got in office and started applying the pressure, okay, we're going to build here, we're spending billions of dollars there. Do you feel like there needs to be a bit of a grace period for everybody to wrap their heads around what's going on, what will come of the tariff before they make those decisions?
Well, I think this is part of the challenge right now, that the environment that we've been in for the last month has been tariffs on at a certain level, then off, then postponed, and parts, vehicles, we don't know. So I think it's just created a very complex environment in which vehicle manufacturers are trying to plan and assess, well, what is my next move? And I know some of my members, Jaguar Land Rover, for instance, paused shipping any vehicles into the United States from Great Britain until they were able to assess the situation. So every company is doing their analysis in their own war rooms, trying to figure out what the best way is to navigate these current circumstances and what's potentially likely to be the future circumstances as well. But again, I look at this and I think it's all part of a negotiation, and we're just partway through that negotiation right now, whether that's a new USMCA agreement, whether it's a bilateral agreement with the United States, who knows? But I think that's the pathway that the Prime Minister and the President have got on with the two meetings that they've had now.
Can you, Dave, just expand, please, on how hard it is for some of these automakers or even, the parts makers, all that feeds into the system, to make these decisions? Because as you mentioned, this is the beginning of uncertainty. We could have another 3.5 years of this, if not more.
Right. And it's very...
How's it weighing on them?
Well, it's weighing on everybody, and I think in particular, and you've seen it in auto communities, I think across southern Ontario, especially the workers. I mean, they're very concerned, but I think our commendation to them is, sit tight. We're going to be able to work through this. But all automakers are trying to figure out, as I said a moment ago, like, what is the best way through this? How do we structure our affairs so that we can continue operating in Canada, operating in Mexico, and hopefully being able to convince the president that the U.S. auto industry is actually stronger when they have their two NAFTA or USMCA partners working with them together.
Got it. David Adams, good for you to come in, sir. Thanks very much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, how